Hi. Hi, Shalom Berger here for the Koren Talmud Bavli. Today we're going to be looking at a Gemara in Berakhot Daf Samach Amud Aleph. The Gemara appears here in the Vilna Shas. That's the standard Gemara. Here the Koren Talmud Bavli has it with Nikud and Pisuk, with punctuation as well as vowels. So when you go back to look at it later, you'll see the Gemara we're looking at is here at the very bottom of Daf Samach Amud Aleph. And it's just a few short lines. We're going to be looking at it together in the English section of the Koren Talmud Bavli, where we see Tanu Rabbanan. We have a Braita, the sages taught. Hanichnas lebeit hamerchatz, if someone enters a bathhouse. Omer Yehira Tamu Fanecha Hashem Elokai. It should be your will, God. He says a prayer beforehand. That I should be saved from this and from similar things. And you should save me from ruin and iniquity. And if something like that happens, that my death should be an atonement for all of my sins. Abaye responds to this Braita, which suggests that we should be saying this prayer, with an objection. Amar Abaye said, Lo lema enosh hachi, a person should not say this, Delo liftach pume la satan, because he should not open his mouth to the Satan. The Amar Reish Lakish, because Reish Lakish says, V'chein tana mishmei Rabbi Yossi, and also there is a statement made in the name of Rabbi Yossi, La'olam al yiftach adam piv la satan, that a person should not raise a problematic kind of issue, giving the Satan, the opportunity, perhaps, to bring about misfortune. Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef then comments about this idea about not being potech piv la satan. My kira'ah, what's the source? What is the source in the Ketuvim, in the Torah that relates to this? Dichtiv, because we found written, Kemat kistom ayinu lamorad daminu. There's a pasuk in Yeshayahu which says that the children of Israel are almost like Sdom v'Amorah, like those terrible nations, those terrible cities. Maya hadro lehu navi. How does the Navi respond? Shimu dvar Hashem k'tzinei Sdom. God responds, if you call yourself Sdom v'Amorah, if you relate to yourself in that way, I'll recall you that as well. So don't be potech pela satan, don't start with that kind of a statement. Ki nafik my Omar. The Gemara now continues the idea about the Roman bathhouses. What does a person say when he leaves the bathhouse? Amar Rav Acha explains, Modani lefanecha Hashem shitzaltani min ha'or. Rav Acha explains that you have to thank God for having saved you from the fire. And for the first time, we're beginning to get a sense what might be the danger of the Roman bathhouse. And then the Gemara, as it often does, relates a story that supports the above-mentioned halacha. Rabbi Abahu al levei bani. Rabbi Abahu went to the bathhouse. Ifchit bei bani mitutei. And the floor of the bathhouse collapsed beneath him. Itrachish le nisa. A miracle occurred. Kam al amuda, and he ended up standing on one of the pillars that supported the floor of the bathhouse. Shiziv me'ah v'chad gavrei b'chad evrei, and he saved 101 people with his hand. Perhaps they all held on to each other, but he was standing on the pillar. Amar, and Rav Abahu said, upon having this experience, Hainu de Rav Acha. This is what Rav Acha meant when Rav Acha said that you have to praise God, you have to thank God for leaving the bathhouse in safety. What exactly was the problem of the bathhouse? So if we look at the background section of the Gemara here on the left side of the page, what we see is an actual photograph of a Roman bathhouse, the ruins of a Roman bathhouse, would show how the floor of the bathhouse was raised with an area open underneath. And the sketch right above it indicates that aside from the hot water being poured into the bath itself, underneath there was an empty space where there was very, very hot air. And were the floor to collapse, there are pillars holding it up, which in the story of the Gemara we saw perhaps would be there to save the individual, but there was certainly potential for disaster. Do we say such blessings, such prayers when we enter the bath? So if you take a look at the halacha section here at the bottom, the note that we have is that nowadays these prayers are not recited, as bathhouses are not particularly dangerous, and you can look up the psak in the Magen Avraham, the Taz, etc. An interesting question would be, what prayers do we in fact say at moments of danger? And for homework, I'd like you to do three things. First of all, I'd like you to review the Gemara that we just saw. If necessary, review it in English, but then make sure that you can read it in the original Aramaic as well by using the Vilna side of the page. Answer a simple question which we just discussed. Why would we or would we not continue the tradition that is described in the Gemara? And finally, this is something I'd like you to think about. Today, in our times, when do we in fact say special tefillot before we do an activity? When do we recite Thanksgiving if we are saved from danger? If we see that the Gemara at one point in history mandated this, perhaps it would be appropriate today. So please take a look, think about those questions, but also take a look at both the Gemara in the original as well as in the English if you need to, in order to make sure that you can read it and explain it. Thank you so much. Shalom Berger for the Koren Talmud Bavli.